Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This is the second part we record for chapter 2. Chapter 2 is about the social, political, economic and environmental context of administration. Now we finished for half of the chapter. Here is the chapter outline. We introduced the system thinking approach for political, which is called political system, and we give example of them. Mainly we are talking about the environment of a system, the external part of a system. External part could be cultural context, economic context, political, societal, technological, and the list goes for more than this. We finished the political part, and after discussing the meaning of system thinking for public administration, and we called it the concept of administration agencies in the political system. We finished the political part. Here are the slides that shows changes in this part. Sorry, and this part affect the inputs, processing, output, and then feedback. Examples here in these slides, and then we talked about the political part. We introduced the political party system, their functions. When they win elections, then they are in the government, so we have party and government here. And we stopped here, so our lecture starts from here. We have a concept here in this slide called the role, the third party. الثيرد بارتي اللي هو يعني اسمه التيار الثالث او احزاب التيار الثالث. They are political parties that come for reform, للإصلاح. They establish what's called reform movement. You know, in politics, you usually find two parties, one in the left wing and the right wing. Democratic, conservative, right? So there are always dichotomy here. So when people get frustrated, right, from those two, here comes a third party, a third movement, right, that says that both of them are not good for you. Okay, we are the ones that, so they collect the issues that people are upset with, right? Okay, and they demand changing. They, for example, they may demand applying merit system, right? فاكرين الميرت سيستم اللي هو نظام الجدارة. Instead of electing people from the government, from the parties, you need to use the merit system, اللي هو the ones that are good for jobs, not only because you are in the party, so then you become a minister, right? Applying electoral reforms, control monopoly, better governmental contracting. All these are examples of issues that third parties usually adopt. Usually a third party بيبقوا ضعاف في الأول, they begin as weak one, and then they may in the future get strong, and they may dominate and become important polar in political life. Also, we have another term here in the politics called interest groups. جماعات ناشطة كده. They are the ones, they are not a party. يعني interest group is not a party. They don't demand ان هم يبقوا في الاوفيس، انهم يكسبوا ما بيخشوا انتخابات or so. They do influence. They pressurize public administration, whether they have some economic quests. يعني عندهم كده مطالب اقتصادية. جماعة تنشأ عشان خاطر some ideological reasons, some ethnic, some even environmental، حاجات بيئية. Defending some species، كائنات حية أو حاجة زي كده. الحقيقة ال interest groups, they in healthy political countries, governments interact with them, right? They meet with their representatives, and they sit together, and they become their advisory groups. They seek advice, data, reactions. They suggest policies before published and announced. أي laws هتتعمل they are يعني represented to them first to see the reactions from them and so on. They become very helpful in politically healthy countries. This slide is a nice one that shows how a relationship can be organized between regulators and regulated, right? You know, it's the issue always in politics. It's the issue, how can we represent people? So one way is to organize relationships between those in the office. It's called bureaucrats, right? lawmakers like in the House of Representatives اللي هو مجلس الشعب عندنا أو sorry مجلس النواب, and interest groups. If these three sit together, that would enhance our representation or become good representatives of people, الشعب. So bureaucrats اللي هم الموظفين في المكاتب الحكومية أو not الموظفين, the one in the top level ones. في المينستريز, في الجوفرنوريتس and so on. Lawmakers, House of Representatives, as example in Egypt, and interest groups. If you can't make such iron triangle, so maybe a weaker one could be an issue network. You know, in smart government they make for each issue a network. يعني مجموعة كده that you always have it there and sit with them to discuss an issue. So for education, you have some interest groups in education. Establish relationship with them and meetings once to understand their wants and needs and test your policies before they are announced. Also, there is another way of establishing relationship between regulators and regulated by something called PACs, political action committees. It may be formed to influence policy making as well. So we have three examples here of ways of relationships between regulators and regulated: iron triangle, issue network, and PACs. We're still talking about the interest groups. برضو interest groups, one of their characteristics is they may work as a veto-like, may develop veto-like اللي هي يعني صوت معارضة أو صوت اعتراض, صوت veto يعني. Power over executive agencies appointments. يعني whenever government appoints some figures, شخص معين, and that person has some ideological problem, so they may veto that and oppose تعيين الشخص ده because that may negatively affect public policy or something. Also they may conduct what's called grassroots lobbying, يعني في بيعملوا حشد كده ايه whenever there are some movement from the government or the governmental agency or whatever state organization is, and they would like to oppose that. ممكن يعملوا حشد بقى ومعارضة ضخمة. Example of what they do as lobbying: mass mailings, يبعتوا جوابات كتير, faxes, emails, complaints. They marshal public opinion, they affect الرأي العام. They may also as well يرفعوا قضايا, court actions. They may support test cases to challenge laws and rules procedures in courts. These are examples of what interest groups may do to represent people and pressurize and adapt and try to make values they would like and they see in how they represent people to be adopted in the government. And that is the end of the political context of systems that we are using, system thinking we are using for this. The second context we have for understanding the outer environment of public administration as a system is, as we see, the economic one. طبعا economic is an important context. We don't see any public administration without having contexts that generate economic problems. Of course الايكونوميك context هو اللي provide the financial resources، هو اللي shapes demand on government goods and services. طبعا كل دي يعني issues and areas that affect changes in public administration. Also, the economic part introduce solutions for that. The classical example of how economic context affect public administration is that we switch from expansion to recession time in economy part. For example, in expansion, okay, we need to hold and control and limit money supply. In order to hold and limit money supply، الفلوس في ايد الناس يعني، فاحنا we issue or we sell governmental bonds، يعني بننزل يعني حاجة اسمها سندات حكومية، اللي هي بتبقى شهادات with high interest rates, so that would attract people that they save their money and don't invest them or buy things that increase expansion, because expansion lead to inflation. احنا we would like to control inflation in economy. Okay, selling bonds may cause or may result in recession, so then governments may look back, or public administration may cut backs and get ready to defend them again and buy government bonds. Then we are switching from recession to expansion. That's an example of a problem that we classically find in the economic context of public administration. Also, as well, examples of how an economic context affect public administration, that the nature of economy. ممكن يكون economy agricultural, that and the country would like to switch to touristic, like in محافظة الشرقية. يعني احنا we would like to see تل بسطة إن شاء الله to become another touristic attraction. That would put new demands, new values to inspire actions and programs for our governorate. Also, when we move from مثلا agriculture to industrialized economy, we may see more regulations, some procedures for population, consumer rights, employee rights, and so on. Such regulations are issues that need to be dealt with in public administration, just because of an economy changes happening. Competition as well with private sector is another برضو problem that we need to deal with in public administration. So we dealt with political, economic, and here we talk about the technological. برضو technological part are context, important one, that affect public administration. For example, using PCs, using mobile phones, the expectations of people of that services become digital and available online, right? Development of telecommunication, internet, also as well crimes may result in using digital and the online work that may cause social problems between them. All these are issues, changes that affect public administration. The last يعني but not least one اللي هو الطبيعة، يعني ecological and natural environmental context. Ecology يعني defined as a subfield of biology. It is related to all living things around us. water, land, animals, birds, and so on. Uh, the group of plants and animals and non-living things interact with us, our ecosystem that we are living in. Public administration is responsible for this, responsible for preserving equilibrium of an ecosystem that we are using in our life. We need to believe in such values that we have here. Yani that it's everything is connected to everything else. These are laws that we need to preserve. يعني انت something happen in land affect water and water affect air and so on. يعني انت you don't nothing is isolated from the other parts of an ecosystem. Everything must go somewhere. There must be a result for whatever you are doing. Nature knows best. انت you don't challenge nature because المولى جل وعلا هو اللي منظمها. ففي there are secrets that you don't know, so يعني try to respect nature. There is no such thing as free lunch. Nothing is free out there. If you do something that you will pay for that. If you did something violates nature laws. But these are examples of laws that we need to preserve when we are dealing with the ecology system, and it affects public administration as well. We have political culture. This is another part, the cluster of attitudes, beliefs, ideologies, and values that shape our thinking about society, government, and individuals. You know, the term culture is a complicated term that talk about how our minds are, I'm talking because it's collective one, are programmed. يعني مخنا متبرمج بطريقة معينة that constitutes a culture. معايا يعني احنا متعودين على حاجات معينة that represent our culture. Our culture affect how we deal with pollution problems, environmental awareness, ethics about something, التعامل مع how do we deal with ال wastes, الgarbage يعني الزبالة, we deal with the health, environment, and so on. It could be a culture, habits that we do in our life. So this is the يعني main meaning of the culture. يعني ازاي مخنا متبرمج, how we are programmed concerning the different issues concerning society, government, and individuals as well. We are talking here about the ecological part, so we have ecological culture, our beliefs as شعب, as people, as government, as groups about pollution, about environmental awareness, and maybe in some time people believe in clean air and water, and in some other time we don't really care about that. We may say that we care, but we don't really care about that. This is a culture. This is a culture. Also, do we have ethics about anti-environmentalism or not? These are cultures that we have that affect public administration, that make priorities of such issues or not for those who are in the office. There are environmental national decision-making issues concerning energy, its use, toxic and hazardous waste, يعني النفايات, how do we use them, how we are conscious about their hazards and their effect on people, land management, air, water, pollution. كل دي حاجات حقيقية مهمة جدا وقضايا and very important ecological problem. There are other issues that are global ones, يعني حاجات عالمية ودولية زي ال overpopulation of the planet Earth in general, يعني especially in developing world, deteriorating resources bases, unhealthy environment in general. All these could be important issues that public administration deal with. So in this chapter we introduced system thinking, and concentrated on external issues اللي هي the one that we dealt with in our chapter كانت political, economic, technological, and in the end ecological اللي هي الحاجات الطبيعية biological and so on. Thank you.